What's going on, everyone? And what's going on, Japan? Because I got another one for y'all. So this time we're gonna find an American female, and we're gonna see what she thinks about the Assassin's Creed situation. So you see, she did this just 2 days ago, recently. It was recently, just on one day. And let's see what she says. As I told you, I'll be taking y'all through all types. Like I said, I've done all types of races and cultures, male and female, and I've touched on positive aspects and negative aspects. Now let's see what she has to say. She does a good job. I didn't finish all the way, so a lot of this is going to be just me reacting along the way. I do this a lot, by the way, on the fly, creative, just going at it. I don't do a lot of premeditated stuff. I don't sit there and mess up and do it over and over. No, I just go right at it. I'm talented like that, and yeah, I love doing this series. I love spreading this message and just getting it out there as much as possible. I saw another article come up about some other historian debunking some stuff. We'll see if I'll get to him. But yeah, she does a good job. I'll let her know I did this, and her title's pretty funny, but obviously it's humorous. Saying that it's kind of messed up. But all in all, I'm gonna react to this, and let's get started.
And you, will you continue down that river?
Let me give her a like.
Or choose another path, beyond what we see?
Well, guys, it looks like it's finally happened. It looks like woke activists have finally pissed off the wrong culture, the wrong people, while trying to inject their ideology into entertainment. Over the past several years, we have seen time and time again Western history, Western culture be blackwashed, whether that's by casting black actors to play characters like Anne Boleyn, or just in general, the
That is definitely a thing, and it is pushed by activists. But of course, the people in control that are doing that are even more corrupt because they know what they're doing. And like, if you had a sense of creativity, like that was more popular back in the days, you would say, "Let me play a hero, maybe in my culture, my mythology." If you have your own history, why the hell would you not want to display that rather than stuff that some other cultures already done? Do it. Get more creative with other stuff. This is like what I find just mind blowing to me today from a lot of these woke activists and just these people today directing, like, where's your creativity at? It just seems like it is just bankrupt. It's a bunch of just recycled and remade reappearances over and over again because you can't think of anything creative, so you're just now doing this with a different skin color, and then you're doing it in the wrong manner, and then you're now using people in the wrong manner, and people want to be used in the wrong manner because they're stupid. So yeah, that's my take on that. Please get more creative. Stop doing the same thing over and over again.
strange insistence that especially the BBC seems to have that actually there have been tons of black people in the UK all along. Now, obviously, there has been pushback against this type of wokeness, especially over the past several years, but overall, unfortunately, most Westerners are just kind of apathetic and complacent when it comes to this kind of stuff because, we don't want to offend anybody. However, the thing is, not all cultures, not all people view offending someone as the worst thing in the world. Some cultures,
No, it's definitely not the worst thing in the world. There's more huge issues going on. Like, today, what's going on with the market, though, there's always manipulation in that too. But like I said, this goes back to the same type of aspect: political chicanery, deception, manipulation, going back to the same entities that have been doing the same thing since antiquity. They just have so many labels they start up, and when you catch them, they destroy it and come up under a different label. This is what they do over and over and over again. So you get rid of them until humanity realizes they need to step back in the light and dispel them all. But as long as they try to do things and lead on their own understanding, as long as they think they can do things their way and it's going to be okay, they're always going to lose because they're dealing with powers that are way beyond their comprehension. So they need help and they need to realize that. But as long as they're in their own delusion, their own thought bubble, it ain't gonna get any better, and you can't stay safe from that because that's gonna invade in there. Is you only have so much time until you realize that because it's just gonna keep on getting closer and closer and closer to us right underneath your nose. That's how evil works, and it's not gonna stop till you deal with it. It doesn't just go away like you're sitting around in some Buddha temple smiling. You know what I mean? It's like it's not gonna get rid of it.
some people, funnily enough, actually do bother to stand up for themselves and their history when they get bullied and blackwashed by these woke activists. Specifically, I'm talking about the ongoing drama with Assassin's Creed. So, as you guys probably know by now, Assassin's Creed Shadows, an Assassin's Creed game taking place in feudal Japan, is going to be releasing soon. And initially, a lot of people were excited about this, especially the setting. You know, feudal Japan, that's really cool. An Assassin's Creed game in that atmosphere would be awesome. However, when promotional materials started being released for the game, including the trailer, what fans quickly realized is that for some reason, game developers had chosen to make one of the protagonists a black samurai in feudal Japan. So, to be clear, just so we're all on the same page, black samurais in feudal Japan were like not a thing. They say that this one particular character was based off of a real black man that did live in feudal Japan. But to be clear, by and large, it's recognized that even though that one black man existed, he was not actually a samurai. And even if one single black samurai did exist throughout the history of feudal Japan, it's very strange to pick him specifically when making a game about feudal Japan. Like Japanese.
Yeah, that's very true. He did exist. He came from East Africa, and he was a slave from the Portuguese Jesuits who go back to the Roman Empire. And they're the ones that brought him to Japan. It's not like he and his mindset would think of the idea to even know Japan even existed. No, they did though, because that's all they do is run around and colonize. So that's how he got brought there as a slave, and then they made a deal with Nobunaga. But when he got, beheaded, they took him back. Obviously, because it's not like he had the free will to say, "Oh, screw you, I'm going to Nobunaga." Nobunaga comes up to the Jesuits, who Japan was very alert of who they were. You can't know how to get to Japan if you weren't there before. You see? So they knew who they were. It's not like Nobunaga was going to go up to him and say, let me just take him. He's mine. Like you finna punk the Jesuits. Japan is not stupid. You can say whatever you want about them. They're not racist and they're not stupid. They're very intelligent. One of the most intelligent species on Earth right now. And they're very prideful about their culture and in general. One of the best cultures, one of my favorite races on Earth is Japan. I can't say I view all races the same. I would be lying and that would be fake. And not a lot of people don't. So let's not be fake. But the thing is that there was no such thing as a black samurai. It's impossible. He was only there for 12 to 15 months. We've done all this. Like I said, there are 61 documents. One was made by the Jesuits. They took that one document, they manipulated it, which was written by the Jesuits, and they made everything and fashioned everything based off of that. They completely ignored all the documents that were the actual facts, written by Japan themselves, who actually gave you him. You see what I'm saying? So, of course, it's pretty obvious that you don't want to work with Japan. You want to blackwash something from a political agenda to make money and start up a riot between the black race and the Japanese race, and also other Caucasians, because people are going to blame them and think just because they're white, they're going to try to be some fake Japanese and defend Japan, or it's always white. It's like, it's very naive because, like I said, if we go and take a look at who is behind this, we can go to Thomas Lockley. So if we go take a look at his book, remember, not only did Thomas Lockley, who's actually British, by the way, remember I said you can't just say white because you have to be more specific of people's race, write this book. This guy was also there with him who co-wrote this book. And he's from Germany, you see? He did African Samurai, the story of Yusuke. He did Yusuke, the story. He was right there with him doing this. This is a guy from Germany. Not a lot of people know about him. You see that? He's from Germany. I'll give you some real intel, you know what I mean? And then you have like the black woke crowd. You got a German guy right here. You got a guy from Britain, and you got the white liberals, and you got the Canadians and other races up there. And then you got Ubisoft, who's French. So that's why I say we got to be very careful to not try to say one spectrum of color here. We need to deal with this from an individual perspective. I hate when people sit there and try to put one thing on a spectrum of color. Those people are small-minded and they have pea brains. They're not that intelligent. They're stuck in a one-dimensional plane and they can't see the bigger picture. And you would never solve anything with people like that because they would not know how to approach anything correctly and deal with people on an individual basis. They would just blame one spectrum based off of a color, and that's not going to get anyone anywhere. It's more dividing and conquering. It's stupid.
Japanese history is so rich and there are so many different characters you could have played off. It's strange that this game studio would gravitate to like the one black guy. And now obviously when this promo material was released, it caused a huge backlash in the gamer community. That's nothing new. I mean, really, the game developers
Yeah.
should have expected it at this point. A lot of people have already reported on that. But what's interesting about this case is that it turns out the Japanese care a lot more about protecting their cultural history and heritage than, Americans or Brits do. The game developers have been getting a lot more backlash than I think even they expected, so much so that they now actually have responded to criticisms. Now, as you can see, the English language release of this trailer is very negatively rated. I mean, 779,000 downvotes to 292,000 upvotes. The majority of people did not like this who voted. But you see, that ratio is still nothing compared to what the game's Japanese trailer ended up getting. 24,000 downvotes to only 2.6 thousand upvotes. Gee, weird. It turns out that Japanese people don't like having their history blackwashed.
That's good that you pointed out the ratio, because not a lot of people do that. And you got a lot of people arguing saying most people don't care. Oh, well then look at that American down vote. And then look at the Japanese down vote. They're both bad. You know what I mean? Because it had nothing to do with Yusuke being black either. It's because people wanted a goddamn Japanese game in feudal Japan. We wanted to play as ninjas. You know what I mean? And now you have the best technology to make the most epic Assassin's Creed game of all time, and you drop the fucking ball with this garbage. But this is because the woke cancer virus just fucks up everything. It is just a cancer that goes around wanting to destroy everything. Goes all the way back to left-wing morons. Not to say that they can't exist in other aspects of life. They do. But I'm saying the majority of it goes back to the Democratic Party. And the majority of it is leftist, which ties into all that. This is all demonic activity. And on top of not doing that too, you didn't work with Japan to make it historically accurate. Like Assassin's Creed was known for historical accuracy. But you want to know why? Because like I said, the developers that are doing this now, it's not the same organic team, hopefully, that it was back then when it was Ubisoft Montreal and a couple other Ubisoft sections that made Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelations, you know what I mean? All the way up to like Egypt, probably. They started invading around that time. Then you see layoffs happening and they're replacing it. And then you're getting those cancerous corporate suit ties coming up in there and enforcing it onto the developers. This is not a development issue as a source. No, it goes back to the publishing and the suit and ties and the political parties that are now invading the gaming industry and have been for a while, enforcing these ideologies onto the developers and forcing them to do that. That's what's going on. That's why you see this type of stuff happening, along with those annoying, delusional pea-brain activists. They want things to be blackwashed instead of realizing that, oh, I could have some sense of creativity, if I have any, to make something unique and make something creative with a sense of soul and progression. And if I want to do things to that sort of degree, start my own industry and learn what coding is actually about and be profitable and lead and sell millions and millions and millions of copies of your game and start indie and know what it's like to build up and get to that point and see what it's like for somebody to do that to you. Well, you can't do that because if you could have, you would have been doing it. You know how hard it is. It's not hard at all. So you want to go invade the best people and enforce that on them and use their intelligence to enforce that because you can't do it yourself. I'm just going to call it out. That's what it is. I don't care if it was anyone else. I'd call you out the same way. What's wrong is wrong. What's corrupt is corrupt. And I'm going to call it out. It's all garbage.
Turns out that Japanese people don't like Western game developers basically trying to lead the world on to say that, oh yeah, Japanese history, it's always been black. Actually, Japanese people, to their credit, were so upset about this that, get this, the government actually ended up getting involved. As Mark Kern reports, the Assassin's Creed Shadows issues with Yasuke, who is the black character, and the discredited historian Thomas Lockley have exploded into a potential diplomatic incident. Letters are being sent with questions to the Japan Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. It says while the government has not taken action yet, they are waiting for final release of the game to decide, and there is mounting pressure in Japan to address the issue with Ubisoft portraying false information to Japanese children. Another tweet here: after a Japanese petition to cancel Assassin's Creed Shadows that as of the time of this writing has reached over 80,000, politicians are now getting involved against the game. Apparently at least
it's over 100,000 now.
one politician is investigating cultural theft that the game may be guilty of. So I guess to be clear, as of yet, the government hasn't actually done anything, but at the very least, they are concerned. And so when it comes to the inevitable backlash that was always going to happen when you have a black character, black samurai front and center in your game about feudal Japan. I'm sure that the developers knew that, some gamers online were going to be complaining about it, but I think they were hoping that would be the extent of it. And hopefully they could use that negative publicity to elicit sympathy from like access journalists who would say, oh no, this poor game is getting review bombed because they're promoting diversity and bigots don't like it. Therefore, everyone go out and support them, guys. I don't think developers expected like basically all Japanese people to take it as seriously as they clearly have, though. Because you see, what's happened now is that the Assassin's Creed account has posted an official statement, a response to the backlash specifically directed at the Japanese community. So to be
Yeah, I
clear,
covered that.
they're not apologizing to like white people who might not like this. This is specifically and exclusively a statement to Japanese people who might not like it, which is
Which
like,
was an insult.
even that, it's pretty telling. Don't get me wrong, the short and long of the statement is basically that they're not going to change anything, and it's you can kick rocks if you don't like it, but at least
Pretty
they're
much.
acknowledging the backlash and they're not calling these Japanese people racist. If it were white people caring about their history and their cultures, the response would just be to call them racist. So there's a hierarchy here, right? Like, obviously, at the bottom, white people, we don't care what they think, they can just go to hell. At the top is black people. They are the most marginalized, most oppressed. We want to protect their feelings at all costs. In the middle, we are learning is where the Asians fall. Like, we're not going to dismiss you as quickly as if you were a white person, but we are still going to blackwash your history to placate black players, as if black players were even asking for this. I've not seen any of them.
No, because we can go back to 1990s. I've been gaming for over 30 years. I'm 35 years on planet Earth. I've been gaming since I was 4. And when people game back then, they didn't say shit about this. They didn't care. Real gamers, you know what I mean? People went to arcades with quarters. You played Japanese and Caucasian games. You had no goddamn problem playing Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, House of the Dead, you know what I mean, from Sega, Time Crisis, um, Final Fantasy, like all the games that you played back then, Pokemon, all amazing Nintendo IPs. Then Sega came on the market, all that type of stuff, you know what I mean? Nobody said any of that garbage that you see today. That's why I said that politics has invaded and it's doing this and it's trying to make people feel a certain way. Same thing they do with Black Lives Matter and Black History Month. It's the same people. Like I said, this is politics now into the gaming industry with more delusional and deranged idiots following them and being brainwashed, and people who do want to, that are actually not real gamers, that are enforcing this into the gaming industry. Because, like I said, real gamers back then would not ever even remotely think about anything like this. You just wanted to play great games, and that was brought to you by the Caucasian and the Asian community. These are just facts here. Anyone gets in their feelings, you're just being a femboy, or you're being a feminist, wherever you're at. You're not understanding straight facts being spoken here. All this other stuff coming in here is just ruining the quality and the soul of gaming, and it does not belong in here. It needs to get the fuck out. Point blank, period. Nobody gives a shit. It's all garbage, and it's all godless, and just does not help on anything. It's all negative, and it's all downgrading the quality of everything. That's the only thing that it does. Of course, because it wants to destroy everything and replace it, like I said, with cancerous ideologies. That's point blank it on that subject. Like I said, anybody else that was in the gaming industry with the Caucasians and Asians at that time, you were qualified and you deserve that position. You know what I mean? What's the problem? There is no problem. If you are qualified, there's no problem. If you're not qualified, there's a huge issue, because you just want some pigment to be there with no inner qualification. That's what this is about. This is about inner qualification and inner qualities being manifested outside and given uh, the developers and the players a great experience together. That's literally what it's about. And I have all this stuff that does not matter being over focused on coming in here, being distractions, and it's making everything worse. And when it just does not have to exist at all. That's the huge problem with this. And the huge problem with Assassin's Creed. It has nothing to do because of Yusuke. He didn't do anything. He's dead. You're disrespecting the dead. No, the problem is what you're doing to Japan. The problem is how you're disrespecting the dead from East Africa, because he's East African. He has nothing to do with America. The hip hop beats don't got nothing to do with East Africa in the 15th century. It don't even exist. America didn't come till 1776. Colored people didn't come till way after. The foundations of America goes all the way back, like I said, to the Brits, to the Caucasians over here right now. You have to include the Chinese in there, and you got to include the Native Americans in there. And that goes back to Hispanics in a certain way. It has nothing to do with black people at all. That didn't come till way later. So I said all this stuff and what it's founded on, it goes back to what I just said. And this is what's annoying is that they get you to focus on stuff that is completely delusional and it's very stupid. Let's continue.
Like desire representation in a samurai game, but in any case, let's be real, the
Oh,
only
and the
people who are
Irish.
cheering this on are like white liberal
They
women.
were here
But it
too.
says here, to our esteemed Japanese community, a message from the Assassin's Creed Shadows development team. First, we want to express our heartfelt thanks for all your support. Since the announcement of Assassin's Creed Shadows, we have received many positive reactions, but also some criticisms, including from you, our Japanese players. We share your passion for history. Do you share a passion for history, or do you share a passion for historical revisionism? Different things. It says, we deeply respect your care for the historical and cultural integrity of your rich heritage. See, they would
No, you didn't, because if you did, you would have worked with them. And that would have been a Japanese male samurai. Plenty right in front of you. You did it on purpose because that's not your goal. So, no, you don't respect anything. And the fact that you even said that just shows how dumb you are because you clearly are showing that you're not. Like, it's so obvious. You don't even need to be that intelligent to figure that out.
never say that about white people complaining about blackwashing Western history. They would never say that. So already here, they are showing a lot more respect to Japanese players than they would ever white players. But it says,
They're not, though. And I'm not saying anything negative towards you. The reason why I say that is because of what I just said. You telling Japan that is actually an insult. From the Japanese spirit, they hate that because you're basically telling them that you did not work. The fact that you didn't work with them at all, and this is the only game ever in history that did not feature the protagonist to his own region, then putting sakura trees in an autumn session, like everything is just completely off. This statement is actually worse. You should have actually said nothing then if that was the case. No, the way they viewed this, and if you didn't see this, Mediaholic, you can go check my recent history of how I covered this. I did this professionally. I got like 20 some videos on this. I did a lot of reacts, and I talked to Japan for 3 straight weeks now. They hate this. This is an insult, like big time.
we would like to address a few points to clarify our intentions and creative decisions. Overall authenticity efforts. We have put significant effort into ensuring an immersive and respectful representation of feudal Japan. However, our intention has never been to present any of our Assassin's Creed games, including Assassin's Creed Shadows, as factual representations of history. Instead, we aim to spark curiosity. Assassin's Creed Shadows is first and foremost designed to be an entertaining video game that tells compelling historical fiction set in feudal Japan. Despite these sustained efforts, we acknowledge that some elements in our promotional materials may have caused concern within the Japanese community. For this, we apologize. Like again, these apologies, as like empty as they are, and the fact that they're still not going to change anything, it's still more than European players would ever get. All game footage presented so far is in development,
I
and
hear
the
what
game
she's
will keep
saying.
evolving until launch. Based on the constructive criticism we
But
have
they had to
received,
do
we
that to
will
protect their
continue our efforts
stocks.
until we put this game into your hands and beyond. So this kind of seems like maybe they'll change things, maybe they won't. I can't see them removing an entire
They'll try to make it as presentable as possible before launch as they can, but they're not changing anything. Like that you would want, like removing Yasuke and all that. No, they're not going to do that.
like protagonist from the story. Black Samurai is still going to be in it, I'm sure. Maybe they're going to be less.
But you could play as Naoe the whole way and just not play it as him as all. She's actually the main character. But like I said, 90 something, 97, 98% of people that went to war in Japan were males. This is why this is an insult for you to represent Japan and not have a male protagonist. Like I said, this is a inferiority complexity issue towards the Japanese male. It is. It's very obvious. The racism, like I said, done here, and the biggest matter is against Japan. That's who was dealing with racism. You're being racist towards Japan.
His role, I'm not sure. They're definitely not removing him entirely, though. I think we can bet money on that. There's also another section here that says creative liberties and historical inspirations. While we strive for authenticity, Assassin's Creed games are works of fiction inspired by real historical events and figures. From its inception, the series has taken creative license. The representation of Yasuke in our game is an illustration of this. His unique and mysterious life made him an ideal candidate to tell an Assassin's Creed story with the setting of feudal Japan as a backdrop. Okay, so let's examine that a little bit because that also rings things false? Okay, once more, of all of the interesting and mysterious figures in Japanese history, you happen to land on like literally the one black guy? Really? Kind of does seem like he was purposefully chosen because he was black. But even outside of that, the fact that his involvement clearly represents cherry
Yeah, because that would be used as a shield to defend them from what they did to Japan, so they could have a woke crowd back them up and have a movement that they know that's going on, that they use to victimize people, to defend them, and also, the other people that are in the liberal leftist party, which there's a lot of those idiots, are also going to defend. It's not going to just be colored people; it's going to be Caucasian people too who are brainwashed, and also those who want to victimize on top of other people who are in that boat. And they could have that whole crowd and hordes of idiots to back them up and start a riot between each other, and start a riot between Japan, and start problems between cultures where there was no problems.
picking. It still doesn't make sense in context of the game. In Assassin's Creed, you're supposed to be able to blend in and not draw attention to yourself, because you're an assassin. Are you really trying to tell me that this is not going to draw attention? Just like a black guy in feudal Japan. Heck, a black guy in current Japan. Like, when will these developers realize
They knew
that
what they were
not
doing.
everywhere is as diverse as like
Stirring the
a
pot.
downtown San Francisco or New York office? And when will they realize that no, diversity is not always a strength, especially if you're supposed to be an assassin? Like, the last thing you should want would be to stand out. Anyway, while it says, well, Yusuke is depicted as a samurai.
Yeah, it's called Assassin's Creed Shadows. Assassin? Shadows? Ninjutsu? Oh man. Yeah, let's fuck that all up.
In Assassin's Creed Shadows, we acknowledge that this is a matter of debate and discussion. Apparently, it's really just that one super biased historian that says he's a samurai and it's not really based on anything. There's not much debate or discussion to be had. It says we have woven this carefully into our narrative, and with our other lead character, the Japanese shinobi Naoe, probably saying that wrong, apologies, who is
That's
equally
okay.
important in the game. Our dual protagonists provide players with different gameplay styles. We greatly value your feedback and encourage you to continue sharing your thoughts respectfully. Okay, so just BS, BS, BS. Thankfully, though, despite that nothing burger of a statement, it seems like the pressure against this game is still very much on, with people absolutely making fun of the concept. I mean, here we have this one account, Assassin's Creed Savannah, the next Ubisoft project set in Africa, be like, and then you have this white protagonist in like historical African savannah setting. I mean, I'm sure there were like individual white people who existed in that regard. And, since it's historical fiction anyway, there'd be no problem with centering a game on a person like that. Right, defenders of Assassin's Creed Shadows? Another comment here. This is great. This game is based on real history. Black samurai beating up a Japanese guy. The history. A black guy in a hoodie beating up an elderly Asian person. And that's another thing that I think makes this entire game so tone deaf. Not only do you have like the blackwashing of Japanese history, which is bad enough, but if we're going to add the cultural context here, which the progressive activists love to do, we are experiencing a time in at least North America where there are quite a few hate crimes being perpetrated against the Asian American community at the hands of the African American community. Like, this is an ongoing real problem. So to blackwash Japanese history in light of all of the black attacks on Asians, it's not a good look. Let's be real. And of course, you do have some people who are standing up for the game. I feel like people have completely forgotten.
But Japan's problem with this game is not because he's a black guy. It's the disrespect of the history of Japan. It's not working with Japan. It's not including the male Japanese protagonist in his own game. You know what I mean? That's the biggest issue. Obviously, they wouldn't want him to be representing Japan because that's not what represents Japan. That's what I'm saying. That's the biggest issue here. But of course, they just want to push their agenda on certain things. But I find it interesting that, they wanted to do it here. After, like I said, you already had Egypt and then you had Cleopatra being blackwashed. Like, that stuff was already happening. So it is an occurring pattern. That does matter too, like what she is saying. She's not wrong for that. But Japan's biggest issue is what I just said, those aspects. Like I said, of course, they don't want nobody who's not a real samurai representing the history of Japan. Do you know how intense and prideful and honorable and noble a samurai was? He didn't represent any of that. And you can't do that without including Japan and working with them along the entire process. They have the highest development in the gaming industry by a mile. They've been carrying the gaming industry for a long time. Western society is garbage in development, and it has been for a long time. Every once in a while, you'll get some good games, but good lord, is it so trash lately. The Japanese have been carrying the gaming industry for the longest time. So if you wanted the highest quality, you need to work with Japan. Period.
Forgotten this screen shows up when you play any Assassin's Creed. These games were always historical fictions and not meant to be literal history books representations.
That's
And
a
here we
lie.
have disclaimer inspired by historical events. It's a work of fiction. It's like, look, you can hide behind that excuse to a certain extent, but we know, like, we just know for a fact that if they had tried to do the same thing with a white guy in African history, it would not have flown. It doesn't matter how many disclaimers of historical fiction you try to throw there, people would not have accepted it. And so I think it's a good thing that the Japanese community and really just gamers as a whole are not accepting it here. And we have some more responses to that statement. Maybe just stop trying to cram DEI crap and radical left politics into your games. Disparu, another great channel. Follow him if you don't already. He's actually the newest like full-time member addition to Friday Night Tights, which is really exciting. Sad to see Az leave, but Disparu is great. Japanese history belongs to the Japanese. You should have a Japanese samurai. Like, that's the thing. I would be called like racist if I were saying this about European history because I'm part white. But I also think that I'm not at all Japanese. In fact, I'm Chinese, which, if anything, would make me more critical of Japanese history. You guys know what I'm saying. But I do think that Japanese history should belong to the Japanese, and culture is important. Heritage is important. It's not some tool to shove your political propaganda down people's throats. Ian Miles Chong, remove Johnny Somali from your game or you'll lose a few million sales. Kangmin Lee, imagine if you just stuck with a Japanese main character for a game that takes place in feudal Japan. Look, I get that putting black people in video games is like the most progressive thing you could do.
Only if it's done in the right manner, and if you're developing something that does not insult other cultures, do it in the right way. But it's not done in the right way. The only way that was done recently by Ubisoft was Watch Dogs 2. I platinumed that game. I got 100% on that. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's just stupid. Let developers create what they've always had and just remove this garbage out of the gaming industry. Nobody had a problem with it before, but all of a sudden they want to start focusing on it. If the game is good and I'm enjoying it, I don't give a shit. I don't want any of this stuff coming in if it's downgrading the quality of gaming, and that's all it's ever done. That's all it ever will do. So get the hell out. Good video, Mediaholic. That's why I wanted to cover it, and I have a lot of diversity on my channel covering different cultures. That's cool to know that you're mixed with Chinese. I love the Chinese culture too. Watch a ton of kung fu movies, and ones that I finished recently was Warrior. Uh, Absolutely phenomenal. Brother Son on Netflix. You have to watch it. I'm telling you. Oh yeah, big time. Love my Asian films and TV series. Doing a good job. But all in all, like, subscribe if you like this type of content. I'll be bringing you more. And like I said, nothing but real diversity on this channel, where it matters with intelligence, covering things that are actually progressive. So yeah, if y'all want to see some of these comments down here, you can. Ubisoft made a hate crime simulator overflowing with racist tropes. Once again, Asian men are denied a leading role and regulated to villains and cannon fodder. That's what people don't understand, how much racism other races deal with. So, but yeah, this too, they just had a black protagonist who was set in Egypt and blackwash Cleopatra. There's other aspects of that too. But all in all, y'all have a good day. Read these comments if y'all want. Peace out.